Good evening, it's Brother Bro here, and I'm here to talk to you about a film called When the Light Breaks, which you may not have anticipated me reviewing on this channel, but nonetheless, it is a film that I caught at the Cannes Film Festival. It opened the Uncertain Regards section. This is directed by Runar Runarsson, an Icelandic filmmaker, as takes place in the city of Reykjavik. And it's the first film of his I've seen, and I would be interested to see every film going forward from this director. Apparently his previous films are pretty acclaimed, and this one is no exception. His mastery of the craft is really stunning. This film has a pretty simple conceit, and it has a pretty naturalistic style, but there's absolutely a mastery over directing actors, capturing subtle but very deeply human emotions, and conveying volumes with camera work, composition, lighting. And so I think anyone interested in, especially cinematography should check this film out. This film is about a woman in her young 20s, Una, who is grappling with grief while harboring a secret. And it explores grief among her and her close friends. And this kind of exploration of grief among young 20s people is something I haven't seen with quite this level of detail. It really makes me imagine that the director is intimately familiar with grief and wanted to portray that as honestly as possible. And the film is also about love and friendship in equal part. To touch more on the cinematography here, what I loved about it was that it wasn't just trying to be beautiful for beauty's sake. Scenes were lit very naturally, and it was subtle enough as to not draw attention to itself. And it didn't lock itself into a particular style where every scene is filmed in a predictable way because, these are the sort of rules we've set out to shoot this movie in compositionally. Every scene was approached in the way that was right for it. I love the play between symmetry and asymmetry in the compositions, the way that the smooth tracking shots convey deep emotions in the character as she's going through very tumultuous situations. And the use of reflections here as a metaphorical tool just gets me really excited that someone's thinking about these compositional tools so deeply and utilizing them very effectively to tell a story that I think conveys information in a more subliminal way, which is very necessary for a film about grief where you can't really put it into words what someone is going through. Oftentimes entire scenes were filmed in just one or two shots, and this just seems like a very well-seasoned, confident director. The lead performance in this film is easily one of the best I will end up seeing all year. The protagonist, Una, is played by Eileen Hall, and her ability to communicate volumes with no dialogue at all and to tell entire stories in these still shots, absolutely stunning, and she's just such a great pair with the director. The film deeply relies on her ability to convey these subtle and nuanced emotions as a primary tool to tell the story. Not sure I'll see a better performance at Cannes this year. The film also utilizes a piece from Johan Johansson that was composed prior to his death, and that piece is very haunting and beautiful at the same time, and it was very well utilized here. I love when a piece begins to define a film as it's sprinkled throughout its chapters, and that they wanted you to sit in this music in order to draw something unique out of you. Story-wise, I think the film is trying to do none other than just depict grief in a very honest way. And what it captures so truthfully is that while grieving, we're also feeling many different things. Scene to scene, there's not just sadness to play with. Whether it's jealousy or recalling a funny story where you're actually laughing, or even bonding with somebody through this grief, sharing that with them, those are very complex emotions to feel all at once. And the director is able to pull off each of these beats. Another extraordinary piece of this is the way that the grief sets in was very unconventional. It makes you realize that we're used to seeing a portrayal on screen and in the movies of someone reacting to news that is not quite like it is in reality. For example, in this film, it doesn't happen all at once. The revelation is slow. And the film takes its time to implant the audience in the headspace of the character. And it might actually be a painful movie for many people to go through. If this film sounds like it might be too heavy for you, I would totally understand skipping it. At the same time, I don't want to deter people from seeing it just because it's a bit of a difficult watch. It also doesn't seem interested in leaving you with a message to resolve all of the tension, and instead leaves you feeling as unresolved as you feel resolved. And this, again, I think was appropriate. It may stop the film from feeling bigger to some people because people like to come away with a catharsis, but I don't see another way that the film could have handled its ending and remain true to what it was doing throughout. The film also takes place between two sunsets, which makes the story unique in that you see many different waves of emotion coming over the character just throughout the course of one day. It wants to explore the many complex ways that people experience these sort of situations that are just beyond comprehension. It's probably a hard film to love for many people just because it's so heavy and maybe just truthful to the point where it doesn't feel like it's trying to transform you. So maybe that's what stops it from being a little bit higher, but I'm gonna go with a strong 8 out of 10 for this one. And I really think it's worth seeing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. How many emotions did you have today?